All right. Trying to set up here. I only have a few minutes, so we're not going to spend a long time. We're going to talk about some gear, just see what your reactions are, your thoughts, your feelings. I know some of you are going to hate the one I'm going to talk about first, but I'm still going to talk about it. Hopefully, everybody's doing well, can hear me. I'm trying to get to my page here. I got to take this earpiece out, so give me 1 second because I always forget that my earpiece will mess up the video if I don't take it out, so I have to take it out. Let's see, live. There we go. I'm setting up the iPad so I can see your comments. That way I can be more responsive. So this piece of gear is probably the most controversial gear out because of this right here called the Price. Teenage Engineering OPXY synthesizer. Now, I get people's thoughts and I don't get it at the same time, and I'll tell you why. So here's my thoughts. If you don't like it, you don't have to get it, right? There's no pressure to buy it. Usually the people better than the desk, at least, absolutely better. What's up, Viral Beats? Um, you don't have to buy it. You don't have to hate on it. You don't have to entertain it if you don't really like it. I'll say this about it. If you like step sequencing, I think it's probably a really nice step sequencer. Now, the Electron Digitac 2, I actually was interested in that one. But the problem with that is there's a lot of hiccups along the way, like the way it samples and stuff, where you have to bring a full perfect loop in to get it to chop. You can't manually chop anything. You can't. What's up, Linda's son? Good to see you. I personally think that that is a bigger waste than this right here. And the reason I say that is one, it's not portable. It doesn't come with a battery built into it. You're spending about 1,000. I think it's like 11. It's either 1,200. Let's see what it is. That's the if it's even on here. What is it called? The Diggy Tac or whatever. Now, if you don't like step sequencing, then this won't matter to you. This is the older one. It's like $799. Here's the new one. So you're spending $1,000 for this sequencer. I believe it has 16 tracks, but if you don't know much about it, um, I will say that the track can be. I do know the tracks can be audio or MIDI tracks, and then the problem is the polyphony in it is horrible. You have to space it across a bunch of tracks, so you really lose tracks. Then you have to like merge those down to one. The workflow in it is not for me. I like some of the step component stuff in it, but I'll be honest that I don't think I would see myself wanting to do all that. Like if they could just make it a little bit better, then this would be a good price at this cost. Now I was hoping when the OPZ came out that it was very similar to the previous version of the OPZ, but that it was gonna just have like maybe a screen this size on it, which I thought would have been great, right? Just a small screen on it, a little bit bigger maybe than the previous version, but just have a screen. And then you could do so much more with having a screen. But we got something bigger and supposedly better. And they put more memory in it. So let's be honest, you're going to pay these days for whatever reason. Memory is like the biggest thing in devices, right? You got to pay to get more memory. Can I enlarge this thing? I cannot. Would you say teenage engineering prices are never cheap except for the KO2? And the pocket operators are pretty cheap, like the pocket operator 30, the PO33, but you're really limited with that one. But at the same time, yeah. So here's the thing: are you having fun? I'm gonna zoom in a little bit more so you guys can see better. Are you having fun with the gear? If you're having fun, then it's worth the price, right? People take lavish trips to go around the world, different places. They'll spend this kind of money and come back and say, I didn't really like it. They didn't really like it. They just spent like $3,000 on something they didn't really like. And guess what? You can't sell it. You can't return a trip. You can't sell a trip. You just went on a trip, right? You spent the money and it is what it is. So at least this thing holds its value pretty well. I've seen them where people buy them and maybe a year later, 2 years later, I've actually done it myself. It's still selling for almost 15, $1,600. What's up, Sim City? Good to see you. Yeah, I'm just doing it for a few minutes and then I gotta run. I actually gotta leave in about 10 or 15 more minutes or less. But we're gonna just talk about some gear. I'm only talking about the more recent stuff that came out. Now, there's a comparison that you could do with this, and I've heard from one person who has it that it kind of reminds them of Drombo. So if you like the Drombo workflow, some of the things in Drombo that you can do in here too, with the step components and things of that nature. So it's got that vibe. The sampling is different, but it's also got the multi-sample stuff. So it is, according to this website, a rack synthesizer, which I believe that because it samples really well. You can sample across the keyboard. The keyboard I've heard is really good. The actual keys feel better than the OP1 field, and they have 8 gigs of memory in here. So here's a few things about it. This 24 voice polyphony is really good. 8 gigs of storage, that's huge um, for a device like this. They usually give you less storage. So that's pretty good. 16 hours of continuous use on your battery. Of course, it's a rechargeable battery. The thing is super portable. 512 megabytes of RAM. You really don't need a lot. It's not a lot going on, I don't think. I think most of it is the sequencing and stuff of that nature. So that's pretty cool. Um, and they call it a groove box on here that lets you reinvent your tracks with every step. You know what got me into this was Echo Opera. If you guys know who Echo Opera is, check out his channel. He got me into Drombo actually. I'd already had the Teenage Engineering stuff. I've tried it, didn't like it at first, but part of the reason I didn't like it was the sound and it was not good. I felt like the first one with the sound was really very lo-fi. The second one, the field was really good sound, but the problem I had with it was the 4 tracks annoyed me. Like just having 4 tracks, and then there were only tape tracks. But the sound was incredible. But the problem was they didn't upgrade the synthesizers, nor did they upgrade the sequencers. So it was kind of not worth even the investment of it because it was super limited. So this one, you have at least 8 tracks, right? 8 tracks can have 9, well, eight, what do they call it? Scenes or whatever could have 9 tracks on 8 scenes. I think that's how it goes. From my watching videos, right? Just like everybody else watch videos. Here's some of the specs. Um, they do have a drum and synth multi sampler, so that's cool. And then the multiple unique synth engines. Now, there's a organ that's in here that sounds really good. The organ sounds good. There's a string one that sounds really good. And then, of course, you can sample your own. So my thought was you get this and you put in your own stuff, like you use Omnisphere and all these top, plugins. Yeah, you like the organ too, SimCity? That's what's up. Yep. How much storage is on the MPC One Plus? You mean built into it? I think let's check it out. Why not? Since you asked about it, one MPC One. We'll just put MPC One. It should come up because I don't even think they sell the other one. So here's the One Plus. It's $699. Now it's hard to compare these to that. The MPC is way more capable of doing stuff. It's not just a sequencer, but it's a bit more. So 2 gigs of RAM, 16 gigs onboard storage. So you got 2 gigs of RAM on the processor, and then there's the 16 gigs of storage on board. That's for storing your sounds or whatever. If you want to do it internally, I would never put anything on my MPC when I had it. I just used the card or the whatever I had SD card to put everything. See, and it comes with 2 gigs pre-installed. So even though you have 16, they actually use 2 of your gigs to put stuff pre-installed with content, right? So you really only got 14 technically, because you can't remove all that. Yeah, you never used it too? Yeah, I heard that too, that it slows down the performance. And a lot of these NPCs are using these old cards in them. These cards are really old that they have in there, but they're still able to make it work, and it still works really good. I have zero complaints about that. I'm not a fan of the sounds in them, but they don't sound bad. They're just not. I'm so used to desktop sounds, and desktop sounds just are way better. I'm not a huge pads person, so that's just not me. I'm not a drummer. I actually program my drums probably more often than not. I'll usually program them just because if I'm using the P6, I'm not sitting there drumming that stuff out. I'm just using the sequencer, right? When I had the SP, I rarely drum anything. I would just go into the sequencer and then drum it or put it in the sequencer and then just sit there and adjust it like, off the grid. So I even do that with Ableton now. I find myself using Ableton the same way. When I'm doing drums, in fact, I do my drums probably last. I'll do the bass line before I do the drums, just because the type of music I'm making. I'm not really making drum heavy music. And lately, I actually put out 3 songs on SoundCloud. I'm working on a new album, trying to finish this album. I'm not going to do as many tracks on this album, but I think it's going to be called The Infinite Impossible Possibilities. Thank you, SimCity. I appreciate that. So yeah, the infinite impossible possibilities. Wait, it's the infinite impossible possibilities, and I'm working on. I got like 3 tracks done so far, and I'm thinking that I'm probably like it's all done in Ableton so far. Well, I started one of them in Koala and then went to Ableton, but majority of the work is done in Ableton. And I'm using this thing called Chop Chop, and it's basically a chop a little plug-in, Ableton plug-in that chops. You guys see my video if you watched it, where you chop basically drum samples, right? And so I'm just using drum breaks to do the drums, just because I'm really not that in tune with the drumming. Now I'm not going to compare any of these prices from Akai to anybody else because Akai is a bigger company than most of these other companies like Teenage Engineering. So they have access to get their stuff made elsewhere. I don't think they do. I'm pretty confident they don't do it in house. So we're not going to compare. And we don't want to sit here and compare and say this is better, though it may be better to most people because it has so much more functionality. You're paying for a device that is made by a bigger corporation. The infinite impossible possibilities. That's what it's called. You really want to learn Ableton, Linda's son? It's actually, man, if you learn Ableton, you're gonna be like, wow. It threw my world because I used Logic for years. I started on Logic. Well, I started back in Fruity Loops years ago before it was what it is now, and then Reason, and then I went to Ableton. Like I went to Ableton at Ableton 11. I was on Logic from Logic 8 to Logic 10. So that's kind of where I was. I got about 10 more minutes, guys, so I'm gonna try to wrap it up. But yeah, so if you got any thoughts, drop them in the comments, real. Um, but basically, I don't compare this because this is a all-in-one unit to me. It's not made just for one thing. You do a lot with this, way more with the MPC than you can with the OP ones or any of those, the OPXY. So I'm going back this way. First of all, that bag is kind of nice. in black. I like it in black. I'll be honest. I'm a huge fan of black, and I think it just looks good. It looks really good. Speaker is gonna suck. We already know that's just not. But this one has speakers on the bottom too, just like the OP1 Field. So it's kind of cool. Has the microphone, has the meter on the side. Looks sleek, and I love these step components. That's super interesting and nice. I think it's gonna get only better as time goes. And worst case scenario, if you buy one of these, you don't like it, you can either return it within your return time or it's easy sell. So you don't have to worry about losing too much money or hardly any money because you can pretty much sell it back if you decide to go this route. But anyway, there's other gadgets out there. Like I said, Drumbo, if you like Drumbo workflow, then you probably will like. Let me see. I think I got Drumbo. Give me 1 second. Let me see if I can do this. If I didn't take it off, there's Drumbo. I'm on the beta on there. So this is Drumbo, if you're wondering. It's a step sequencer. This is Flexi Sampler. You can drop samples in here and then chop them up however you want and play them back on this pads or sequence them like by putting them here. You guys, if you got iOS, you know about this. It's on the iPhone. It's on here too, but it doesn't work on here as well as it does on the iPad and iPhone. It's meant for those. But same principle. You can record in. You can add in effects, different devices or whatever that you want, and route your stuff right. And then you have a master chain, and you have 8 tracks on here, but you can actually add more tracks on here, as many as you want. But I think there's a cutoff, but I can't remember what it is. And you're building like your sequence. Here's your main page here where you can do it. So this is kind of the workflow, the step sequence I learned on. I was never into step sequence until I learned this. And if you go back and listen to my first album, I actually did 5 songs. The last 5 songs on that album were made on Drumbo. I actually recorded everything in Drumbo, did it all live. So that is what this is basically in a piece of hardware, is what I'm hearing. Now, I haven't got my hands on one probably in a month or so. Maybe I'll be able to, or even January or somewhere, I might be able to actually get one. But I'm just saying, you got to figure out what you like and what works for you. So yeah, the infinite impossible possibilities. Um, or I haven't finalized that, but that is one of the tracks on there called that, and it actually sets the tone for the other. The idea is I'm traveling this road where there's these like infinite opportunities, yet it seems impossible. It's almost like a puzzle. I'm piecing it together, but yet I'm still. So that's the motto of the album. So that album, I don't know when it'll be out. I'm just taking my time, just enjoying the workflow of making music and not really thinking about it. And then I'll drop it. It probably will have like 7 to 10 tracks, something like that. Like I said, I got 3 done already. When is it dropping? I don't know. It's whenever I finish. So I don't put a time set on frame on myself because I want the music still to be good and not for me to like it. So I just kind of build tracks, and if I like that track and it fits the mode of what I'm going with, then I'll keep it. If not, it'll just be a whatever type track. That's the beauty of not being on a record label, right? Or doing anything like that where you're tied to a time frame where you have to drop it. I can drop it on Bandcamp, $3. Just put it. All my albums are $3. Okay, so if you support me on the channel or like anything I do, and you can support, go to Bandcamp. It's all B jamming since birth, right? Been jamming since birth is what I really is, but I just put B jamming, right? You can grab those albums, take a listen. They're all a little different. Some of them, jazz. You'll hear ambient. You'll hear a mixture of cinematic stuff. It's a little bit of everything. That's my style and kind of workflow that I live with. So anyway, I'm just looking at gear. I love the P6. I love that sample. I wish there was something else that did that sample rate exactly like that. I found other plugins, but they don't work as good to me. They're kind of like, they're mediocre when I hear it. But for some reason, Roland has it down pat. I like what they do. So anyway, what gear are you guys interested in? Drop it in the comments. If there's no gear you're interested in, what plugins are you interested in? I'm not a huge gear person. In fact, the P6 is the only thing I have gear right now. Other than that, it's the Novation launch key, and I use the iPads every blue moon, and then I use the Ableton for everything else. The mini Korg, you like the new Korg? Let's look at that. I got about 5 more minutes or so before I got to get off. Is it the MS Mini? This one, the Korg MS-20, the new one. So I'm gonna guess this is the old one because I don't know what the new one is. So that's why I'm asking. Vocata one. Oh, is it? So it must be something that's not out. Let's just type that in. Vocada. Yeah, I don't think it's out yet. Or let's do this. Let's go here. I'm just gonna go Korg. That's the Voca. Nope, that's not what he wants. Korg 2. Vocoda. Well, that helps, right? To spell it right. Let's try that again. Oh, okay. So the Korg, this one right here. Oh yeah, the micro Korg 2. Gotcha. I saw a couple people playing on that thing. It looks cool. I think it's great. They put that screen on there too. That looks good. Nice. So it's almost like an upgraded version of what they originally did. Yeah, because it's the Korg 2. I remember the other one. People still speak highly of that thing. That's not a bad price either for $599. That's really good. That's a steal because Korg sounds are really nice and the price looks good too. Why not? Are you gonna get it in white or the other color? Do you like this color here? This is nice, and it's got real wheels on there, which is like half the battle for me. I don't like it if it doesn't have wheels. So that's cool. I like that. The mini keys are really mini for sure, but it looks good. The only thing I wish they would add on this that I can, and it may be there and I don't see it, is a step sequencer. It's kind of fun to have on one of these devices. Some people don't care about that. Probably never use it, but I want to see what the outs and in. Oh, there we go. Outs and ins. So it's got the MIDI, damper, aux, outputs. Oh, it's got a USB-C. Nice. They actually brought it up to more current specs. It looks good, man. And for that price, you can't beat it. Yeah, it's really hard to get gear. Gear is like, that's why I'll be honest, like I use stuff. If I keep gear, if I even get some gear, it's gonna be through companies like AMS. There's Zounds if you like Zounds. I don't have anything against Zounds, even though we've had our little hiccup. I'm not worried about it. I don't dislike them. What they do is they offer good payment plan options for people. Sweetwater is always the best one, if you ask me. If you really want like the most payment plans, and you don't mind, them running your credit, I guess they offer like 48-month payment plans, which are super affordable. 0% interest, 48 months. It's pretty good if you have that ability to get it. Korg, let's see, Vocoda. There it is, the Korg Mini 2. They have the black one, or I'm gonna call it black for not knowing what that color actually is. They have it now for $550, so it's actually cheaper than if you get the white version. So this is a limited edition for 50 more bucks. So you could check out, here's a certified open box one too for 5. So they do 36 months on it. So that's pretty good. Oh, this is the vocoder one over here. They all have vocoder. Never mind. Korg Neo King. Interesting. Well, I'm gonna have to end this video because I do have to go. You like the black one though? Yeah, I do too. If I had to choose from these two, I would say go with the black one too. Well, that's just my opinion. But yeah, so yeah, they offer financing if you can do it. That's only like 15, 16 bucks a month, depending on where you live. Everybody lives in different places, so it might be more expensive. I don't know like cost everywhere. So of course you have to do your own figuring out all that. But it's pretty cool that they offer these different outlets and pay places where you can pay and pay, a little bit here or there and finance something if you really want something. So pretty cool. Well, we're going to end the video there. Appreciate everybody stopping by. Hit the like on your way out if you can. And again, my albums are on Bandcamp. If you're able to drop in $3. If not, listen to them on Spotify if you use Spotify. If you don't use that, they're on most platforms except for Apple Music, I think is the only one they're not on. And it's because the company I went through didn't push out to Apple Music for whatever reason. So, but everything else, you can get it on just about every other platform that's out there. Appreciate you, Viral Beats, Sim City, Linda's Son, and anybody else that didn't comment. Still appreciate you stopping by. Hope you guys have a good week, and I'll see you on the next go. I'm out.